Hello. Thank you for taking the time to listen and reflect with me on the intergenerational effects of slavery and racism. One of the goals of this presentation is to help parents become more aware of the ways children can also become victims of their parents and their ancestors' traumatic experiences. I also hope that you will become more empathetic when you think about racism, just like I have become. I will confess that I used to wonder why African Americans cannot get over racism and slavery. I used to say, things have changed and slavery is a thing of the past. I used to wonder why African Americans could not stop worrying and expressing concerns about racism. I immigrated to the United States believing it is the land of opportunities, especially for those who are citizens. It was irritating to find some citizens complaining. My American dream was to become an American citizen. I achieved it and started enjoying the benefits. So I expected African Americans to just get over it. Quit talking about slavery and racism as barriers to your success in the land of opportunities. As a perinatal, infant, and early childhood mental health consultant, I'm constantly looking for ways to support healthy early childhood development and promote a healthy parent-child relationship. In the course of my doctoral studies also, I became more aware of the intergenerational transfer of trauma. One day it dawned on me that I had never thought of slavery and racism as traumatic experiences. Just like child abuse, divorce, war, and other traumatic events can affect generations, slavery and racism can affect those who did not directly experience them. Let's take a moment and reflect on the definition of trauma according to the American Psychological Association. Trauma are experiences that cause significant fear, helplessness, confusion. They can have long lasting negative effects on attitude, behavior, and functioning. Slavery is a helpless situation. The ancestors of many African Americans were forced into slavery. They were hopeless and helpless. Being sold and forced into slavery far away from their homeland must have been confusing. The feeling of betrayal is unimaginable. Just like slavery, racism causes confusion, helplessness, and fear. How do you make sense of being treated less than human because of your race or skin color? The sad thing is that these traumatic experiences can be transferred. That's why we can't simply say, get over it, since you did not experience it directly. We can't just say, get over it. Slavery is a thing of the past. Some studies show that trauma transmission can go down 3 generations. While slavery and segregation ended years ago, the effects of these traumatic experiences are still being felt because parents can pass trauma to their children. Racism has not ended, so the trauma is still being transmitted. It was difficult to find several articles on the intergenerational transfer of trauma within the context of slavery and racism. However, I found several articles on the intergenerational transfer of trauma amongst Holocaust survivors and war veterans. So, if Holocaust survivors transmitted their traumatic experiences to their children and grandchildren, African American slaves definitely transmitted their traumatic experiences down their lineage subconsciously. It would be heartless to tell Holocaust survivors and their direct families to just get over it. We don't tell war veterans and their families dealing with PTSD to just get over it. We address the effects of the traumatic experiences as mental health issues. That's the same approach we should apply when dealing with complaints about the effects of racism and slavery. Don't just say, get over it. Don't just say accept it. Studies show that trauma can be transmitted genetically. This reminds me of the saying that it is in the blood. While scientists are yet to completely figure out how this process occurs, they acknowledge that it does exist. Even the Bible acknowledges this fact: the fall of humanity through the fall of Adam and the redemption of humanity through the blood of Jesus are perfect examples. Psychological transfer of trauma, as stated earlier, changes human behavior, attitude, and functioning. The way parents think about life reflects in their words and action. And children learn from their parents as their first teachers early in life. The trauma of racism and slavery can make one fearful and distrustful of those in authority. It can also be expressed in form of hate, resentment, feeling disadvantaged, feeling misunderstood, low self-esteem, and heightened sense of racism, and more. The effects are endless, and they often depend on how those who directly experienced these traumatic events dealt with their trauma. Traumatic experiences impact how parents raise their children, and many times they teach their children to deal with life the same way they dealt with trauma. So I have presented some problems, and I've provided some evidences that racism, slavery, and other traumatic events can have intergenerational effects. Parents can transfer trauma to their children. As a perinatal infant and early childhood consultant, I am actively involved in breaking the cycle of intergenerational transfer of trauma, whether it be slavery, racism, child abuse, or divorce. Through postpartum support, emotional and spiritual preparation for parenthood, my company provides classes and a space for parents to reflect on the things that can interfere with parent-child relationship, things that can affect the healthy development of their children. Our goal is to help parents become more aware of underlying mental health issues and encourage them to seek appropriate professional help when needed. So please visit littlenonesbrecmh.com to learn how we can support your journey and put an end to the intergenerational transfer of trauma. Our children deserve the best of us. They deserve to live life without fear. Thank you for your time.